Hi, this is Janice from Needles and Fashion, and I'm going to show you how to draft the top of the jumpsuit that we're going to be making today. So it's going to be a two-part video, one for drafting the top and then the other on the construction of the garment. So as you can see here, I've already kind of drawn out the shape of the pattern. This has a pivot that goes into towards the center line of the actual muslin, or center line of my garment. And I actually drawn out the pattern for this particular top, which actually accentuates the shoulders. So I draw out my outline here, and it's something you can do on muslin. You can actually erase on muslin. So I had a couple tries here, and I actually got the particular shape of my garment. So what I'm going to do now is work on the actual fitting. You have to, when you're draping, I'm not a professional by any means. I've watched a couple videos on YouTube and really got the gist of it. But what I did was create a center line here with a ruler before I place the muslin on, which tells me where to place the garment on my dress form, which is fitted and measured out to my exact size. So once I do that, I pin the actual muslin to my dress form so that it conforms to the dress form. What I'm going to do next is do a little bit of fitting that I learned on YouTube as well, which is going to actually create the darts that I'm going to place on my garment. So the first part here, you see there's some gaping here at the bottom, which goes into your waistline. I'm sure there's probably a technical term for that I don't know, but I'm going to show you the gist of it. So what I'm going to do here is taper off at this particular dart and make these adjustments up into my bust. And what this is going to do is create a dart for this particular garment that I can mark on the muslin and then transfer over to my fabric. Now what I learned the first time I actually did this was that I needed two darts. I needed one on the bottom and one on the top. And what I actually did when I was sewing was connected it, so it actually created a line going down the bust and down to the waist. So I'm pinning this now, and you see it creates a dart for you. And I'm going to mark it, but I'm not going to mark it just yet. Then, once you see there's a little bit of gaping here as well, so what I do is going to be very small, is pin this area, down into my original dart. It doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of get the gist of what's going on here. I would rather do this with ballpoint needles, ballpoint pins, but I can't find them, so we're going to work with what we got here. The next thing I'm going to do is actually make the markings for this. So I'm going to come down and mark where I have it pinned all the way down to the waist on both sides. That's going to let me know where I need to place the dart indicators on my actual fabric. So I'm going to go all the way down, so when I unpin this, it's going to show me the line that I'm going to be making. So I go all the way down to the waistline on both sides. And that's done. And as you can see, the garment lays flat on my dress form. Stop. Okay, so now you see that I have my darts in place. I have them marked. And the next thing I'm going to do is do some cutting and repinning of this garment to my dress form, and I'm going to cut out the actual pattern. Now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go around the pattern that I cut here, and don't worry about this when you get to your garment, because what you should do when you cut it is leave, you know, enough space to make a 5/8 seam allowance when you actually cut the fabric. So I'm going to start with the neckline. When you're drawing your neckline, you want to make sure that you give enough space. This particular pattern does not have a zipper. It does have a zipper that goes all the way to the top, but you want to make sure that it's not choking you. So you want to make sure that your line that you're drawing for this particular pattern is not very close to your neck. And that's what I've done here. When I made this first garment on my red two-piece wool set that's on my blog, Needles and Fashion at blogspot.com, I was praying to God, you know, just kind of making some adjustments around my neck and for my back piece that my big head would fit through it. And thank God it did, because I actually installed the zipper from the top going down to the bottom. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to grab my scissors and I'll be back. Scissors, and we're going to start with the neckline on cutting the muslin and repinning. A lot of people could just repin, you know, in this particular area, pin in this area to begin with. I didn't, so we're just going to work around that, just in case you don't when you do it. So I'm going to start with my neckline, and I'm going to cut around. And you can make these straps as big or as little as you like. I made it the size that's very similar to how I did it in the original garment. I'm going to take that piece off, take that pin off, and repin it here. And I'm going to go to my side seam here. And I draw a line down the side seam, which kind of indicates where your side seam will be at, the side line. So I'm going to cut up that line here. I'm going to go all the way up to the armhole. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, you can make those adjustments when you start cutting your fabric. I'll take that pin out, remove that muslin, and just stick it somewhere. I'll move it to the side. Now I'm going to start cutting the actual bust piece for this particular pattern. I drew this a lot of times, so I have a pin there, so I'm going to remove that. I'm going to come all the way around my drawing. And go up to the top. I actually put a nice little curve in here this time. I don't think I did that on the original garment. But, got that up there. Take these pins out. And remove this piece. So now you can start to see the formation of this particular top, and it's exactly how I want it, so I'm happy with it. I'm going to now cut the center line up to the top so I can have a complete piece. I got a little pin there. I'm just going to keep going on up to the top. Okay, so now I have my piece. Like again, you can see the pattern starting to form. I'm going to come here. This is my waistline on my dress form, which is the waistline for me. And I'm just going to kind of clean up this line because it's draping down a little bit. And you want to make sure you put enough muslin on your dress form to allow for these types of cuts. So when I place my muslin on my form, I usually go up further than where I know I'm going to make my pattern so I can have enough to swoop anywhere I need to go. So that's pretty much it. I got the front. Let me go grab another piece of scrap muslin and I'm going to start on the back. I'll be back. I draped my back piece on my dress form. Before I put the muslin on the dress form, I created a center back line like I did with the center front with a ruler. And I placed the center line right in the center line of my particular dress form. I created the center line and then I went ahead and continued on after overlapping the front pattern piece and created another exposed back line, which is a little bit different than what I did on the red top. I went ahead and continued that through the side seam and make sure that it matched the front piece here at the armhole. So what I'm going to do now is draw in. So I draw in the top piece. I'm going to go ahead and sketch based on the overlapping from the front piece, my actual neckline. Again, this does not have to be perfect. This is going to be a jumpsuit that zips right up to your neck, so you don't have to worry about your head fitting through. But if you're doing something like a two-piece, you want to be sure that you're creating a circle that's going to fit your head because you don't want your head to be too big and then you end up having a little bit of issues back there. So I went ahead and then I'm going to go back and whiten this a little bit just to make sure we got some good symmetry going on here. And make sure that that line matches the shoulder seam for my front piece. So I got that all situated. The next thing I'm going to do here, I already pinned my sides, my back, and what have you. I'm going to go ahead and do some fitting here on the back. Just like we did in the front, we want to make your darts. So I'm going to start here because I know I'll be cutting off the excess below that. And I'm going to go up to make sure we don't have any gaping in the back. This is going to be a very form-fitting jumpsuit. So you want to make sure that it clings to your body. Now, if you don't have a dress form, there's tons of resources on YouTube that will give you information on making a duct tape form. I have a couple friends that did it and they love it. So if you don't have a dress form, don't want to spend the money, you can do it. Actually, one of the girls on the Needles and Fashion Facebook group even found a stand at Home Depot for like $20-something. So you're looking at tape, you know, throwing away a t-shirt, and you could pretty much create a dress form for $30 as opposed to, I believe I paid $160 for this on sale with my Joann's coupon, but now it's on sale, I believe, for $99. So you can save, you know, 70% of what you would normally pay and, you know, spend $30 to make your own dress form. Now, that I do not know how to do. I wish I did, but I have a dress form, so should I considerably grow in the future or considerably shrink, I may need to get a new one. But this one I bought a size medium, which at its almost the largest state is the size that I am, so that I know with me trying to work out that I will get smaller so I can make those adjustments. The only thing I don't like is the gaping, but hey, better learn now than later. So once I create this dart, I'm going to go ahead and mark like I did the front so I can know when I place this on my fabric where I need to place my darts at. And as you can see, it's laying flush on the dress form, so I know it's going to fit me. And this is always something you can adjust, you know, for fitting once you get the garment, you know, constructed. And I think I'm pretty much good to go. So I'm going to take my scissors, and the first thing I'm going to do is cut my center back because I'm here already. Cut that center back on up to the top. Okay. Gonna remove that muslin. I'm going to go to the armhole. I'm not going to do my side seam quite yet because I got some overlapping going on there. I'm going to cut around here. All the way up to the top, and you know, you're going to make sure this is flush with what you're doing on the front. And once you do this for this top, it's something that you'll be able to use, you know, the method to make you know, your own patterns moving forward, especially if you have a dress size that conforms to your actual size. So I'm cutting the neckline here. And I can remove that piece of muslin. So you can see the form of the back. You can see that that at the armhole, it actually connects at the same level. I'm going to continue the waistline cutting from my front piece and just kind of continue that on to the back. If it's not straight, you can fix it once you get it, you know, off of the dress form and onto your table to make sure that you're making a piece that's very symmetry to what you'll be making. And I'm going to put a pin here. And I'm just going to double check and make sure I got all my lines down to the waistline, so we're not trying to figure that out once we take it off of here. So once it's off of here, it's off. So since I got that down, I'm going to cut my side seam up to the armhole. I'll turn it here so you can see it. Now, as you can see, the front and the back is not touching, but again, when we cut our fabric, we're going to make those allowances for the side seam, so it will connect essentially when you construct your garment, right? So everything's flush. If you look here on the top, the front is flush with the back. We have our back design, we have our front. Now, as you can see, I only did one side of the garment. That is because we're going to have one piece when we cut our fabric. We're going to cut our fabric on the fold. So once you cut it on the fold, it's going to automatically duplicate the other side. The reason why I do this is because you don't want to try to construct the other side, because there is a chance that you won't cut it the same way you did the original piece. Now, if you want to cut a whole piece or a whole back, what you can do is, once you take this muslin off the dress form, you can actually drape it onto some pieces of paper, or if you have some craft paper, or you can take some 8.5 by 11s, tape them together, draft one side, fold the paper over, or well, draft one side, cut it out, fold the paper in half at the center seam, at the center line, and reduplicate that, and then you'll have a whole piece if you want to do it that way. But I much rather cut it on the fold so I can make sure that both sides of my fabric are completely the same. Now that I have this, I'm just going to clean up a little bit on my shoulder piece because I have some overlapping going on, and I don't want to transfer that overlapping onto my particular fabric. So I'm just going to cut a nice straight seam at the center line for both pieces where they connect. And that's it. As you can see, it's very flush. And that is it. You have your front piece and your back piece. I'm really loving this exposed shoulder. Loving this exposed shoulder in the front. I'm really liking how this is coming out. So this is pretty much it. So the next part of this video series is what we're going to do is show you how to take your McCall's pattern, which is originally shorts, and draft into your pants. Okay? So I'll be back.